Yeah, thanks a lot. Interesting presentation. Are there questions from the audience? If so, open your mic or put them in the chat. I have one right now. So the definition of dual use that you put forward, they all focus on offensive technology that to some extent violate human rights. Is that correct?
Yes, it's been increasingly tried. The legal reforms have increasingly tried to capture this, yes.
So what about defensive technology that allows a malicious actor to hide human rights violations?
That's a very good question. You mean like encryption, for example?
For example, yes, side channel prevention. Yeah. I think there are many things you could think of as technologies that might be good enough to allow whatever actor to very effectively hide what they're doing.
Yeah, so these lists are, they are very specific. They regulate there are long lists of very specific types of technologies with specific exemptions. There are, for example, regulations of encryption in the export control system. But generally, I would presume that as a conceptual matter, what you're describing is no, it's probably not very well regulated by the system as it is today and as it's being proposed.
I see there's probably a question coming up from Bart Preneel.
I note in our university big concerns about misuse. In light of the human rights ethics, experts are worried about open source. Yeah, so of course publication is one of the ways that that information can get to a bad actor. You have to classify your information. You have to know what it is you can publish and not. You have to decide this on the basis of sitting down and doing some hard thinking beforehand. You have to have a regulated, managed system in your university policies that allows you to do this in a consistent way.
More questions? More for the discussion? I think Erik wants to leave 5 minutes early or something like that, which is probably pretty soon. So now is your chance. I find these what you mentioned about Peggy. Peggy, we see you. You're muted.
Yeah, you're muted. So now you have to unmute yourself.
Yes, there I am. Sorry.
Nice to see you again.
Nice to see you, Erik. Yes, lovely. This is such a timely presentation because a few days ago we were informed by our Vice Rector Research that KU Leuven has well, set up a new human rights assessment policy. I'm going to share the link. Can I share it in the chat? Here's openbare chat. Yeah. And so I was wondering, my question to you is, how do you see the level of assessment? What should be done on a macro level, like at the university level, and to what extent should the individual researcher have to go through this process, because it's extremely difficult to be aware of every aspect and know all the details. So what would be your advice to actually handle this as for us as research groups within a broader research institution, the university? Do you have any advice on that front or any experience that you can share? Thank you.
Yes. So at the university level, the centralized university level, the macro, you need to have policies, probably like the one you just put in here, but you need to have probably the basic set of ISO 27001 policies and gap analyses in place. And you need to have security officers who know them by heart, who are points of contact and can guide research projects according to them, so that the information, the types of information dealt with in information projects can be classified according to them. That's what you need at the top level. At the bottom level, you need awareness that there are risks, and you will probably at the end be better placed than the security officers at the top level to assess the risks of your own projects. So you have to apply the risk assessment frameworks and the policies on your own projects, report back, and help them develop the system over time. Help you find good mitigation security solutions and mitigations. And some of these types of assessments that you would do, you're familiar with. So of course, HR, recruitment assessments, background checks, and whatnot. The project manager, someone who's managing a security project. Partner reliability assessments. One subcategory of that could be a processor reliability assessment. Is this a secure processor that we're transferring, that data transfers in the security project are happening to? Do they have everything in place that a processor should? You have the self-assessments, which of course are very useful and can inform the top level of the types of risks that your projects have. You should not just be applying self-assessments to the end use. They also have to consider what you yourself are doing. You are a link in the wheel. What you're doing here now matters. The self-assessment has to be applied to the research conducted at hand. And in the partner reliability assessments, of course, there's the self-assessment that I filled in for the export controls while I was working. But there's also other types of non-legal reliability assessment. What is the standing of this institute or industry partner on the market? Are they known for misconduct? Are they known for security breaches? Do they have complaints against them? And this type of stuff you also want to look at.
To what extent can such a assessment be supported by a generic policy officer, for example, at the university level? Because I think it's always very specific, right? The risks are completely different whether you're in biomedical research or in computer science.
Yeah, the officer is probably not gonna be able to identify the specific risks. That is probably going to have to be up to the specialists who are managing the project. What they can help you with is understanding the classification frameworks, the policies that the university has.
I guess it's also a matter of sharing experience at different levels. So I have some experience. I see that Kathleen Jansen is also in the meeting. So she knows that at CIF we have some experience with going to the ECDMM, so the Ethical Committee for Misuse and Dual Use at our university. So the people who are member of that committee, of course, see many files, research proposals and research projects passing by, and so are accumulating that experience. So I think that this is also important at different levels, so research groups and then more centralized bodies, that they can exchange these experiences and information on partners. Yeah.
And at the end of the day, there's going to be some tough calls. And like I said earlier, it's not just about this partner, this consortium that we're going into. What are they signing on to do at the moment? If you are increasing the technology readiness level of a partner who is also in defense, who's also in national security, the staff are getting know-how, and you are not going to be able to guarantee that know-how, that the knowledge and development of that staff is then not reused in other projects that have wide exemptions. You just can't guarantee it, and you have to, as an institution, either accept that is the case or say no to certain types of things.
Kathleen is typing something. You may also say it if you want, Kathleen. Communication between generic officer and technical expert is indeed key, both for the ethical assessment and for the export control. Ah, she has mic issues. Okay, I see. Yeah.
Yes.
But Kathleen, do you generally see in our research projects that we are giving these things the necessary priority, or do you have the feeling that we as researchers more often try to navigate around anything that could possibly be labeled as dual use?
Yeah, exactly. These are, I mean, the idea of whether or not to accept exemptions, which are acceptable because a legislator has said it is. A legislator in the EU has said that exemptions are acceptable. The idea of whether or not you as an institution does it, you can leave it up to individual researchers, but it's probably better, and it probably feels better in the end, at the end of the day, for your researchers if you at the higher level take that decision.
Eric, this is Stefano. Hi.
Hello.
Hello. I want to just first weigh in on this discussion. It's been very interesting, and I have to say that having been at CIF for a few years now, the awareness is been growing, not only at the vertical level, but also horizontally. So this is a very positive point, and I'm glad to see that we share the same opinions on what are the steps necessary to, you know, undergo and assess the due diligence of other partners or practices and policies. This is very important, and I think we're on the right track on that. Having said that, I have a few questions related to my research. As you know, I'm doing research on vulnerability equities processes, and I was trying to see and check what you have said against that specific type of instrument. And I have one question, which is a clarification. I understand that you say the military doctrine tends to narrow down the terminology of offense to just anything that is damaging, thereby leaving out, for instance, intelligence operations, which are sometimes only just exfiltrating data without actually destroying or damaging in the broad sense. My problem with that, and I want to know if you agree with that, is that in the vulnerability environment, this is not the right way to look at it, because we have a defensive, let's say, equity, which is protecting cyber infrastructures vis-a-vis keeping the vulnerability for both intelligence operation and military operations. So I want to check whether you agree on that, and this is the first question. And the second question is more of a policy one. We've been looking at attempts of reform to the dual-use framework. And at the same time, from my perspective, from my research, I more and more stumble upon both doctrine, but also assessment studies of this gray market, of black market of vulnerabilities. And I want to, you know, sense the terrain with you on whether it would be a good policy choice, or if it would be doable to include vulnerability within the list of dual-use items, just the vulnerabilities. Would it be too broad, too limitative for the cybersecurity market, or would it be, in your opinion, something that could lead to beneficial results? Thank you.
Okay, so the first question, I'm just going to give a very short answer to, and it's probably not going to be a legal answer. It's more of a technical answer here. And okay, so the idea is anything that denies or degrades or disrupts. That's offensive in the military sense. How does that really translate to this type of technical scenario which we're discussing, which is hacking? And I'm going to use an allegory here, which I know that technologists, every time I use it, they attack me and they don't like it, but I'm still going to use it, and I still haven't been convinced otherwise. Okay, so you think that the only type of degrading is when there's a degrading harm at the end. Well, consider what you're doing when you're exploiting a system. You're making it act differently than it was intended. You are degrading the security just by getting around the security. If you had, for example, okay, say a Swedish intelligence officer disguised as a Russian submarine officer. When the Russian captain doesn't see, he goes to the wheel and he does this really fast to the wheel, and then he sees, okay, how did the Russian submarine steer when I did stuff to it? How did it behave? That's his information gathering. Okay, the submarine didn't crash. He wasn't authorized to do that. That's still, you know, disruptive, isn't it? I would say that just trying to bypass some types of protocols and making them behave the way they shouldn't, or processes, is disruptive. It doesn't matter if it's for intelligence or not. It doesn't matter if it's to cause harm. So I don't like this and harm-focused way of looking at it. For the vulnerability side, well, I think that maybe it would you could probably have an effect with it, but it would probably also magnify this issue that many academics have been writing about, and that many security companies are writing about, and that human rights organizations are writing about. If you export control of vulnerability, you are export controlling legitimate activities that make technology more secure. You're also regulating those transfers. You're making it harder for the exchange of information to in the end make the internet a more secure place. So it's the same problem that exploits have, but it's magnified if you also take it to vulnerabilities. That's the negative side of it, which also, can you bring a normal computer which has many vulnerabilities over? How are you going to travel with your own computer? Like, why are you going to be able to travel to take your PC to watch Netflix? That's not gonna work.
Yeah, thank you very much. That was very interesting, especially the first bit. I fully agree with you. Thank you.
Okay, Erik, how are we doing with time? I guess you have to leave soonish, huh?
Yes, I should probably make my way. But thank you very much for inviting me here and everything. And what's my best Christmas wishes to everyone.
Yeah, thanks for the insight you've been sharing, and a Merry Christmas to you too.
Take care, everyone. Have a nice Christmas.
Yeah, take care, everyone. Ciao. Enjoy the vacations. And see you all on the 6th of January for a continuation of human rights aspects, then in the context of technology in migration management. Have a good day. Thanks a lot.